Hello and welcome to Better Gaming, an event and podcast series dedicated to all aspects of ethical gambling and gaming as we discuss how to make things safe, secure and socially balanced for everyone. My name's Jim, I'm the host of the show, and in this episode I'm going to look at the top 3 news stories that have graced my inbox through my rather sophisticated Google Alert system. P.S. It's not very sophisticated, but nevertheless, it has highlighted 3 news stories that I really wanted to flag up, have a discussion about, and basically put out there as it all impacts on ethical gambling and has an impact on the safe and healthy play within the industry. All 3 stories are from different parts of the gambling industry. The first is focused on the national lottery firm Allwyn, and obviously that's the lottery sector. The second story is regarding digital bank Monzo, and they have a self-serving block or gambling restriction tool that they've announced the results of. And then finally, rather pretty aggressive actually, story about the British horse racing industry, for want of a better phrase, all to do with the stadiums, the amount of bets that are being put down, and apparently some widening 3 billion hole in the market that's all the fault of the Gambling Commission, apparently. So I'm going to go through all 3 of those news stories, reading them as I go, providing some commentary to it. I don't profess to be an expert in any of them, if I'm being honest with you, but I have a healthy interest in all of them because I have a healthy interest in ethical gambling and the ethics behind it. And it's just something that's piqued my interest. I'm not a expert by any means, as I mentioned, but with that, if anybody is listening to this and watching it and can provide some insight, or where I'm being a bit flippant, or whether I'm glossing over an element of the conversation and missing a significant part of it in terms of the debate, then please do let me know. You can find any of my contact details at bettergamingshow.com, or you can email me directly at jim@bettergamingshow.com. So with that, I am going to share and talk through the first article. And just to timestamp it as I try and find the screen here, it is Thursday the 12th of December. It's about 2 weeks to go before Christmas. And all of these news stories have landed in the last week. And here it goes. I'll move across here because I'm getting taken out of the frame as I do my Spielbergs and make sure the directing's all perfect. So this is a news article that was published 3 days ago, December 9th, and it featured in a lot of news outlets. So obviously a general release from, and basically it focused on the lower UK sales and earnings, which I'll just scroll down. I think it was saying that is being held back by a lack of new products in terms of the sales and earnings as Allwyn within the UK, I should add, as it is held back by a lack of new products amid technology delays. And they've experienced a 1% year-on-year decline in sales on a constant currency basis. So I think that's eliminating any element for a currency exchange differential. And I've just noticed there, you can see my browsing history. It might be a little bit Bitcoin heavy at the moment, but that's just something that's interesting me. So yeah, anyway, I digress. So basically, yeah, it's fallen by 1%, and they're putting it down to weaker performance in instant win lottery games, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because I think when the lottery first launched, it was pretty much focused on the one key draw, and then they've expanded it to more draws, and it became scratch cards, which is less lottery based, and then more instant scratch cards, which has a higher propensity to pull people into gambling harm. Basically, the group said its performance continues to reflect the limited product and channel developments, with plans for a new draw-based games delayed after the handover of the license was hampered by legal wrangling. And this has all been down to a dispute with a technology provider. And when you dig into this article, you find out that all of this and the poor performance of Allwyn, or should I say not poor performance, but the reason why the figures are down, it just seems to be teething problems as they take over from Camelot with the new incentive program, but also they've got to put down a whole new infrastructure in terms of point of sale and terminals, and that's all impacted on their performance within the quarter. The main problem is that this fall in revenues and earnings, which I'm going to scroll down to, impacts on the amount that gets handed down to good causes and charities, which is a principal reason behind the lottery when it first launched and continues to be one of the big drivers as the new contract was being negotiated between several different players, and Allwyn won out because it looked to, was it double the amount of money going to good causes? Yes, but the group remained committed to its long-term goal to double money for good causes despite falling short of early targets. So essentially what we've got here is something of a teething problem for Allwyn, which is now impacting on charities and good causes. But as mentioned in this press release where they said they remain committed to the long-term goal, I think they're going to have to just play catch up with regards to what gets returned to charities and good causes. So yeah, we remain focused on executing our plans to transform the UK National Lottery, including upgrading legacy systems to support developing the product portfolio and elevating the customer proposition. The third quarter results for the group showed that UK's underlying earnings slumped 84% to €7 million, 0.8 million, with the group blaming the significant decline largely on the introduction of a new incentive and profitability mechanism with the start of the new license. So yeah, teething problems. They spent £54 million in capital expenditure. And as I mentioned earlier, that is to do with investing in upgrading its technology and point of sale terminals. But the wider Allwyn group said underlying earnings lifted 12% to €410 million in the third quarter, while total revenues rose 7% to €2.4 billion. So on a pro rata basis, the UK is in an early stage problems, but the overall health of the wider group is very healthy. So it should be just a matter of time or months. The only thing that I would say is that with all of these elements is that I think in this press release, where is it? Is it up or down? I think it's up here. That they said here. So Allwyn's UK boss, Andrea Vidler, told the PA news agency earlier this year that the plans for the new draw-based games have been delayed until 2025. I think they were initially due to come in this year, but they delayed until 2025. And it's thought that the technology switchover may not happen until the summer or even early 2026. So if this is a press briefing, and they're already mentioned 2026, you can pretty much be confident that it's not going to happen until 2026, and they're just softening the blow. I live on the Elizabeth line, and these sort of time delays and little creeps are slowly letting people know that the problem's a lot bigger than what it is. So I think they, with about 2 months ago, they said that the line wasn't going to open, it would be delayed a year, and then it ended up being delayed by about 3 or 4 years. So it's a very similar sort of thing. So I would pretty much be confident that something wouldn't come into play until 2026. So that's with Allwyn. Obviously, the only concern, for me, is a two-prong element of one, that the charities and good causes are getting their agreed amount of remuneration and support from this product. And then secondly is just keeping an eye on this switch for new draw-based games. A lot of people are against, because when they first came in, it was all to do with the lottery being a pretty sort of like low entry gambling product. But as the years have gone by, it's gone more scratch cards, and now scratch cards online, scratch cards on mobile devices. And it will just be interesting to see which direction Allwyn are going to go towards. Are they going to go more on the draw-based scheme, or are they going to sort of still continue with these scratch cards? And I know that there is a lot of opposition with regards to that. So that is the first article. The second article that I wanted to take a look at was about Monzo, which, as I mentioned, is a digital bank, and it has said that they basically have a new gambling block. Well, it's not really new, but they've launched new features on their gambling block. And in 2024 alone, it blocked more than £9 million worth of gambling transactions, which was an 8% year-on-year rise in the previous year of 2023. Now, this is a good thing on both fronts of whether it is A, an increase because more people are using it, or B, an increase because more people are aware of it. In either or both instances, I would say that it is encouraging that people are using the tools, but it will also indicate that there is a rising problem in terms of gambling and people self-identifying as having a gambling problem. So let's read through this article. The Gambling Commission recently revealed the UK has seen a 12% increase in gambling transactions to 1.46 billion in 2024. And meanwhile, over 70,000 Monzo customers are embracing the bank's latest addition to the gambling block, with the average self-imposed cool-down period, the time being between lifting the block and being able to gamble again, surging from 3 months to 10 months. So that's people taking a proactive approach to potentially having a gambling problem. And again, it's one of these ones where in a perfect world, you wouldn't need these things, but inherently you do. And we're realists. And the fact that people are increasing the time block from 3 months to 10 months is a positive thing in terms of people aware that they need a longer break from these gambling approaches. So at the heart of Monzo's self-management feature is a deeply personal note to your future self that appears when a customer is tempted to gamble again, giving them the opportunity to pause, reflect, and remember why they chose to stop gambling in the first place. When you put it into human lives and families that have been affected by gambling harm, I think we've got to take the encouraging side and look at the positive side to that. I kind of think you know what I'm talking about just when it comes to talking about the human impact of gambling and not so much focusing on the financial value of it. Okay, so more than 700,000 customers are using Monzo's gambling block. Wow, it's quite high actually. That is really high. 700,000. And since the introduction of the self-serve feature last year, Monzo has seen 70,000 customers embrace the self-serve additions. 75% of those customers are choosing cool-down periods of over 48 hours. Probably would want to see that go a bit higher. 41% of customers are opting for the maximum industry first 12-month cool-down period. Excellent. 20% rise in blocked gambling payments each month, jumping from 657,000 to over 800,000 monthly. And then the average cool-down period, which we've already mentioned, 3 to 10, and 8,500 customers are writing powerful notes to their future selves, which again, really positive thing. So excellent initiative. These are the sort of things that are really encouraging and just helps put the player protection both for themselves and by the bank at the forefront of ethical gambling. And this is something that should be rewarded. Kate Graham, I think I was going to have her on a podcast. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I need to email her. So by staying close to our customers, we build and evolve products and features like Gambling Block that help them to transform their relationship with money. Hearing from them about the impact of our latest additions to the tools have made it fantastic. Even more so because so many customers are controlling the urge to gamble by reading notes they've written to themselves in the Monzo app and choosing longer cool-down periods than ever. And then from Game Care, financial harm is a significant issue for many people. We support tools like Gambling Block, longer cooldowns. Yeah, okay. So that is a good news story, even though it doesn't read like one. it is actually really encouraging to see these sort of initiatives play out and actually be used by people to help curb or limit or preemptively control any gambling harm that they might be subjected to. So that is a great story. And now the third story so this is from the Racing Post. Now, admittedly, I have very limited knowledge on horse racing, but I am interested in a couple of bits. So it is costing turnover. Restrictions are forcing down online betting, says professional gambler Neil Channing. May or may not be a big deal in horse racing and professional gambling. I do not know. I've never heard of him before. That's not to say I don't wish to insult him. It's more of a fault of mine. But what this article does focus on, and is backed up not only by Neil, who I'm sure is a big deal, but also by other horse racing personalities, is that there seems to be a massive argument brewing between the horse racing industry and the gambling commission, and it all focuses on the online turnover here that you can see in the graph that stretches back from 2017 to 2023. So that was that 23, quick maths, 7-8 years. And what you can see here, I'll just trace my cursor along, is the actual and expected turnover has been largely in and out along the broad straight lines up until about April 21, 22, when actual turnover has plummeted and expected turnover was predicted based on adjusted inflation. And the gap there is £3 billion, which is a shed load of money. And the basis of it is that they are saying that punters are being forced into betting smaller and less often due to account restrictions and the threat of affordability checks, prompting online betting turnover on racing to plummet, according to the big man Neil. And I think this goes into the ethics. Well, it goes into, I think this is more pronged than just sort of smaller bets and account restrictions. Because he goes on here, he talks about betting smaller, you can deposit, it's not really about how much. For example, with Cheltenham, lots of people I know who wouldn't go too mad in January because racing is a bit rubbish in the build-up, but then go bigger during the festival. If you're limited per month, you can't do that unless you're organised and get things lined up, which, why wouldn't you? How can punters be happy to send in quite detailed information while often having no idea who will see it, how it will be used and stored? No different to online social media accounts, I guess, and other regulated industries. And certain bookmakers are also using the whole affordability thing and regulatory requirements to attempt to weed out businesses that they don't want, which is costing turnover but not levy necessarily. Racingers blame the Gambling Commission for the 25% drop in online turnover, with Arena Racing Chief Executive Mark Prudence labelling the regulator as unaccountable and out of control, and saying the sport would seek to engage directly Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy on the decline. His statement was backed by the Race Course Association, National Trainers Federation, Racehorse Owners Association. Andrew Rhodes, Chief Executive of the Gambling Commission, said the statement was based on a thorough misunderstanding of what's happening and what we are proposing. So essentially, I think there's a wider problem within horse racing. I would really probably wouldn't feel too confident commenting on this until I was speaking to somebody who were way more familiar with this. It seems to be that there's a wider problem. It can't be just on affordability checks that you're facing a £3 billion gap. There might be in terms of issues in terms of sort of engagement with the consumers, in terms of popularity, elements of the industry that it might just not be an attractive industry anymore. It might be a little bit dated. And that is something that is going to have to struggle with. It's pretty much like cricket or something like that, where they had to reinvent themselves. But I know obviously with horse racing, you've got the animal welfare element to it, which is something that, for instance, for me, Can't remember. Did I put a bet down? I don't think I did. It's just sort of something over the years that I used to bet on the Grand National. Used to bet occasionally on the horses. And over time, I just sort of like, particularly with the Grand National, with the media coverage in terms of the horses being put down when they fell over fences. It's just that's something that I just didn't feel comfortable with. I know that horses love to race and they love to run, but it just, yeah, for me, just in terms of ethics, my views on it, one, I don't find it that particularly enjoyable to watch. I find it quite boring. Secondly, the older I get, the more compassion I get for animal welfare, something that I probably wasn't overly engaged with in my younger years. It seems to be a massive story. I've never really heard of it before, if I'm being honest with you, but there's this 3 billion black hole that seems to be having the horse racing industry very, very angry. So obviously that's going to impact on a lot of the wider industry in terms of stables and jockeys and breeders and racecourse owners. And yeah, so that's probably one to watch and probably will feature, will be an ongoing story as I continue to do these news alerts. So that is it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any input into anything that I've said, please do let me know. I could have been doing horse racing or Allwyn a complete and utter disservice in this little episode. And if so, I apologise. But please do let me know where you would counter and where you would think I've misread the situation. But ending on a positive note, I think that the story about Monzo is really, really encouraging. And that just goes to show that if you put the tools in place in front of the people take personal responsibility for their own decisions, and you need to give them that control. And that's something that puts player protection at the forefront of everything that I like to do and what this channel is seeking to achieve. So on that note, hopefully I will see you next week if there's 3 more stories worth commenting on, which I'm sure there will be. But until then, have a great week and I will see you on the next episode.